8-3, graphing linear equations using intercepts. In the last lesson, you put a line on a graph by finding 4 points and then connecting those 4 dots. We can find a line and put a line on a graph using half that work. We can use something called the x-intercept and the y-intercept. And the intercepts are simply where the line crosses the x and y axis. The x-intercept is the point where the line crosses the x-axis. That would be this point right there, the x-intercept, where it crosses the x-axis. And the y-intercept is the point where a line crosses the y-axis. This would be the y-intercept. And we're interested in the point where they cross those two axes. So on the slide over here, the x-intercept crossing right here at 1, 2, 3. The x-intercept crosses at 3, 0, over 3, up 0. Those are the coordinates of the x-intercept. We're not too interested in the coordinates of the x-intercept. We're just interested in the fact that it crosses the x-axis at 3. The coordinates for the y-intercept are 0, 4. That's where the line crosses the y-axis. We're not interested in the coordinates. We're more interested in the number 4 because that's where the line crosses the y-axis. Very important to notice that for any line which has an x-intercept, the y-coordinate will always be 0. And when you have a y-intercept, the x-coordinate will always be 0. So they switch when you're looking for an x-intercept versus the y-intercept. On this slide, we're just going to see if we can gather the information for the x-intercept and the y-intercept. So we notice that the line crosses the x-axis at that point, which is at 2. So the x-intercept is 2. And it crosses the y-axis down here at -6. So we've just found the x and y intercept. We found exactly where that line crosses the x and y axis. Very important information to be able to get from a graph. And then later we're going to use that information to actually put a line on a graph, which we're going to begin right now. We're going to use this equation, x minus 2y equals 8. From that, we're going to find the x and y intercepts. In the first part, we're going to find the x-intercept. In order to find the x-intercept, we're going to let y be 0, and we're going to substitute and solve for x. So if we do that, we have x minus 2 times 0 equals 8. Now you'll remember from the first slide that I discussed when the x-intercept, when the line crosses the x-axis at the x-intercept, the y-coordinate is always 0. And that's exactly what we're doing here mathematically. So we made y 0 because we know that when y is 0, we're going to have the point where it crosses the x-axis. And in fact, because 2 times 0 is 0, x minus 0 equals 8, we know that the x-intercept is 8 for this particular line. Now, to find the y-intercept, the other intercept, we're going to let the variable x be 0, and we're going to solve for y. Now you remember again from the first slide that for the y-intercept, the x-coordinate will always be 0. So we have 0 minus 2y equals 8. Simplifying that, 0 minus 2y equals 8. Negative 2y equals 8. Divide both sides by -2. And we find that the y-intercept is at -4. So the x-intercept is 8, and the y-intercept is -4. We're going to move on to the next slide. And we have our equation, x minus 2y equals 8. If the x-intercept from the previous board is 8, and the y-intercept is at -4, we can graph this equation using the x and y intercepts. So if I go over to x equals 8, and put a dot, and go to y equals -4 and put a dot, I now have 2 dots on a graph that I can take, and I can create a line that passes between them. And I now have a line on a graph. This is graphing a linear equation using intercepts. You'll have to be able to gather the x and y intercepts from a graph, and you'll also have to use the equation to find the x and y intercepts, and then finally put the line on the graph like this. So yesterday's lesson, you had to find 4 points to put a line on a graph. Today, in this lesson, you're going to be able to use 2 points to put a line on a graph. And in the future, in a couple of lessons, I'll actually show you a way where you only need 1 point to put a line on a graph. But for now, you need 2 points, and you're going to use the x and y intercepts. Your homework is on pages 384 and 385, problems 12 through 40, the evens.